Today, I want to be able to give you 10 tips to decide whether you want to be able to take that bit of a leap from being just someone who takes images to actually trying to be a professional photographer. My name is Julian Elliott. I am a professional landscape and travel photographer. If you want to keep up with what I do as a professional photographer, make sure you click on subscribe just down there in that bottom right hand corner. So you want to be a professional photographer. So do you have the skills to be a professional photographer? It sounds very easy, but so many people head off into this industry thinking, well, I can take pictures, I can do that, anybody can do that. Well, no, not necessarily. So just before you head off into this wonderful world of photography, make sure that you've got something to offer, that you do have the skills to be a photographer, because it's extremely competitive out there. Just take a look at things such as Instagram and you'll see people producing imagery just with their phones that is fantastic, and they're getting all sorts of sponsorships and this kind of thing from different people. So just before you head off into that heady world of professional photography, just think, do you have the skill set to be a professional photographer? Number 2, skill sets. Just think about what it is that you do and you don't know about photography and all the different elements within it that you need to know. Think, do you have the knowledge to be able to go off into this industry and be a professional photographer? There's so many different strings that you have to your bow, just from the business side and then obviously the photography side, and things such as processing. Be constantly evaluating where you are in your photography. So for example, myself at the moment, I'm constantly looking at and thinking, are my Photoshop skills really up to the speed that I want them to be? I personally don't believe they are, just for the simple reason that I know how to process my work in Photoshop and Lightroom, but I still feel that there are gaps in my knowledge and I'm trying to sort out those gaps. A lot of people will probably look at what I do and say, but what you process, the images look great already. What's the problem? When I look at them, I still think there's something missing. So you'll see in my hands, I've got Photoshop books. They're actually quite old Photoshop books, but I've been doing a lot of research into Photoshop and actually looking at it from a very basic level to an advanced level and thinking it's a skill that I really want and that I really want to understand how to do things. And so skill sets and missing things in your skill sets, identify what they are and then fill them in, and you will become a better professional photographer because of it. The third thing that I want to talk about is your market. So before you head off into this heady world of being a professional photographer, who is your market? Who's going to buy your work? Where are you going to sell it? Who wants to commission you against anybody else that might be out there? There's so many things and so many different ways that you can earn money from photography. I personally invest a lot of time in stock photography. I've been doing it for 7.5 years now and seen my work sold across the world through Getty Images. But it's not easy out there. Prices are constantly being driven down as places like Shutterstock come along and offer images for essentially peanuts to customers that want to buy it. And so then that drives down prices elsewhere in places such as Getty and Alamy and Robert Harding and whoever else that you might put your stock photography with. So be very aware that might be that one door is slowly closing, but there are other ways and means to earn money from photography, such as selling prints, teaching photography and whatever else. There's many different avenues to earn money from photography, but make sure that they avenues that you want to earn money from, that you know how you're going to earn the money from them. It might be that at the moment in your full-time job you're earning 20,000, 30,000 a year. How are you going to earn that in your photography life? It's a lot of money, and it's not easy to earn that type of money as a professional photographer, certainly as a professional travel and landscape photographer, I should say. It's not that easy. So think very carefully about who is your market. The fourth thing that I want to talk about is financial stability. Now you might be thinking, but I've got money. Well, I'll tell you now, if you give up your full-time job and you go into being a professional photographer, you're going to see your money dwindle very, very quickly if you don't have the number 3 in place, which is your market. So before you head off into this world, then what I would suggest is to very, very slowly ease your way out of your job, maybe going part-time and reducing your hours ever so slightly until you're at the point where you can say, I can now do this as a full-time professional. If you just say, boss, I'm out of here, see you buddy, I want no more, I'm going to be a pro photographer, I'm off to travel the world, you'll probably find you're going to fall on your face very, very quickly. So have some financial stability, have a good lot of money in the bank, because you are going to find that there will be periods whereby you'll be looking at, for example, a stock photography statement and thinking, how on earth am I going to live this month? Can I even have bread and water? It is that hard at times when you're looking and thinking, I've sent a bill out to somebody and they're not paying me, you've got to chase them and all these kind of things. So make sure that you've got some good financial stability behind you before you head off to be a pro. The fifth thing that I want to talk to you about is gear. It's probably the most commonly asked question that we get as professionals. Do I need the latest Canon camera, the 5D Mark IV for example, and all these different L lenses? Do I need a Nikon 800 series, Sony A7R III, or I don't know what they're on now? All these different wonderful and expensive cameras. Do I need these to be a professional photographer? It does help, and you will find at some point that you will be going towards those type of cameras. But in the beginning, you don't need them. You can produce decent imagery if your camera has got AV mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, and of course manual. In my hands is a greetings card. This was taken on a Canon 350D, and I think it was taken with a kit lens, if memory serves. I can't remember offhand. But this is a greetings card, and this greetings card is, if I put it up to the camera, you might be able to see, it was for sale in Joe Cornish Galleries. And I'm sure if you're a landscape photographer, you know who Joe Cornish is. So that just goes to show you that a 350D can produce good enough work to produce greetings card to be sold in one of the most famous landscape photographer in the UK's workshop, in his shop up in Northumberland. So just to give you an idea, you don't necessarily need to be starting off with the most expensive camera and lenses that you can afford. You can get away with something that's less expensive, and as long as you know how to control that camera, you'll get good imagery. Number 6. Do I give my work away for free to help me up the ladder of being a professional photographer? Now, this is a question that basically goes, it depends. If somebody phones me or emails me and says, we love your work, can we have one of your photos, we'll give you a byline, a credit line, but we can't afford to pay you. Then the answer for me to them is, well, are you being paid to communicate with me? Of course, the answer is yes. So why should they be paid to take my work and make it into something and earn money from it, and I earn nothing? There are, of course, some circumstances whereby I do give my work to people. Now, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of those particular circumstances, but as you become more and more acquainted in this role of being a professional photographer, you will find and understand the circumstances whereby you can give your work to people for free and you're getting something back that there is some kind of value to it. You'll understand as you get further into this job as to what it is and when it is that you can give away your work for nothing. But overall, I would add an air of caution to that. Number 7. This is work. First and foremost, nothing else. This isn't play. Okay, we do get to have a little bit of fun every so often, but at the end of the day, This is work. What I'm doing is a job. Like you, when you go to your job, your day job every single day, be it in office, doing driving, stood behind a counter in the supermarket or whatever, this is work. But the difference between doing this job and other jobs is that what you're going to find is that the weekend no longer exists. Annual leave just does not exist anymore, so you can forget that. And you're going to be working long hours. It might be that you're there having lunch and then half an hour later or less, you're back in work again. And if you go somewhere and you pay, for example, like I've just done to go to Berlin, I've paid money to go to Berlin, hotels, etc. I'm up 6:30 in the morning, off to the exhibition, talking to people, working, networking, and it's long hours. You have to understand that basically as well, you're going to not just become a photographer, you're going to become an accountant, social media person, marketing, and whatever else. There's so many different roles you have to take on doing this job. You're not just going to become a photographer. And also be very, very aware that the amount of time you're going to be taking actual photos against doing things such as processing, sorting out bills, chasing people, etc. You're probably going to be 20% time is taking photos. So just be aware of that as well before you head down this road. Number 8. So you've now got a good idea of what it is that it's going to take to be a professional photographer, giving up the day job and moving off and traveling around the world, maybe, and having a good idea of what it is that you need to do. So one of the next things that you can do and should do is get yourself a decent website. And by that, I don't mean Flickr, I don't mean 500px, these different things. Get yourself a good website, get yourself a domain name that actually means something and will drive people to where you are and who you are and what it is that you do. And also start to learn things such as SEO, which is search engine optimization, because you can have the most wonderful website in the world, but if it's not optimized and you're not able to get good text in there, how the heck are people going to find you? It's a big world out there, so you have to understand some of these things. And as well, that feeds into this is speak to somebody, a designer, about getting yourself a logo for your website and also your business cards. It looks professional, it is professional, and it is very much worth seeking the advice of somebody who can do that for you. They don't cost that much to actually do. You might be talking between 100, say for example in pounds, 100 to 200 pounds to get somebody to design your logo. If you're serious about doing this, it's very much worth it. I did it in the very beginning before I'd even given up my job back in 2009-10, I think it was. And it worked until I've just changed my website last year. So get yourself a good website, get yourself a logo, get yourself decent business cards. It will help, I promise. Number 9, portfolio. It sounds obvious, but get together a decent portfolio, certainly for your website and also in other places to be able to show people what it is that you can do. If you knock on somebody's door and say, hello, here I am, I'm a professional photographer, you want me because I can give you great imagery. If you can't show them what you can do, why should they employ you? So as I said, it does sound obvious, but you would be surprised at how many people are out there trying to promote themselves and they're not able to show what it is that they do. I was at a place in London in February presenting my work to different people, and the number of people that said to me, we've seen a lot of photographers today, they just keep handing us their business card, but we've no idea what they can do. You're the only one that's actually come up to us and showed what it is that you can do. So if you haven't got a good portfolio and it's not processed well, etc., then you can forget it. So make sure that's in place. It will help. Number 10 is people skills. Now, it may sound obvious as we're forever talking every day to our friends, family, our bosses and colleagues, but when you become, for example, a travel photographer, you're not just dealing with different people, but different countries and cultures and languages as well. So you have to have a good understanding of the people that you want to work with and that you want to present yourself to. If you have no understanding of how they work, well, why should they be interested in you? If you make an effort to understand the people that you want to work with and also make an effort with their language, I guarantee you will get a lot further than other people. So I speak French. I'm not fluent, but I speak enough French that I can deal with things in a business sense over here in this country, in France, and also, for example, people from other parts of the French Republic, which is places like Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Réunion Island, these different places, different cultures again, but it's still the same language. But I've got a good understanding of the language, which means that I'm able to communicate with these people in a business sense. So do think about your people skills as well. It all comes as part and parcel of being a professional photographer. So that's it for this particular vlog. If you've liked what you've seen, then please do comment or ask any questions below. And of course, if you're new and you've liked what you've seen, then please do like the video and also subscribe. There's a lot of new things coming up this year. There's a lot of tutorials as well that I want to do this year. I've got things planned, have a very long list of things planned that I should be doing that I haven't done yet. But it's just time. That, unfortunately, as I've been explaining, is the life of a professional photographer. You think you're going to have all the time in the world. I'm going to tell you now, you're not. Until the next time, see you later.